So Mika Singh has swung into damage control mode. He's tweeted already that it's only the Independence Day of India that he will be referring to in this concert. Too little, too late, is it? Now moving on to the other big fight which we witnessed in the Rajya Sabha yesterday. Sushma Swaraj finally taking on the opposition, and she has in a rebuttal talked about India's China's policy and also India's Pakistan policy. But the opposition is likely to move two privilege motions against her today. Although Sushma Swaraj gave a point-by-point count to the host of issues. First, let's take a listen in to what she said yesterday, also slamming the Congress Vice President for the reported meeting of Rahul Gandhi with Chinese envoy. Now, Congress has moved to privilege motion. They will be moving it today in the Parliament. So hence this big question that we are asking this morning: has Sushma managed to silence the opposition? Also, question number two: Congress cornered over Rahul and Chinese envoy meet at this moment, referred to by the External Affairs Minister, and Sushma's response in Parliament, has it rattled the Congress as well? How will the opposition counter the government? To know all about it this morning, we're joined by Rajiv Dogra, former diplomat, Sudesh Verma, spokesperson BJP, and also Dr. Shama Mohammed, the spokesperson Congress, coming and joining us. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Before we get into politics, let me get the neutral view first. Mr. Dogra, according to you, has Sushma Swaraj managed to silence the opposition yesterday?
Well, there's no question that Ms. Sushma Swaraj is a very articulate spokesperson of her party's views and the government's views. So she's presented them well. But the larger issue is, what is the context in which this debate is being held? Because the world today has changed from the last 5 years or 10 years back. Earlier, one action did not have a resonance on the other action. That means if something was happening in North Korea, it need not affect India, or something was happening in Iran, it need not affect India. Similarly, if India-Pakistan relations were concerned, China was not a major factor, or vice versa. Today, that situation has changed, and the world is poised on a very delicate diplomatic balance. India and the region around it even more so. So arguments and debate aside, we have to look at the reality. And the reality of today's picture is that China seems to be taking a leaf out of the democratic system in its propaganda exercise. It is telling the world that it is on the right. It is quoting 1890 repeatedly. And we are meeting all that with silence. Is that the correct posture to adopt? It may be called mature, it may be called a restraint, but does it get us the world opinion on our side, or is the world opinion swayed by what China is saying? If there is silence on the other side, it also means acquiescence. It also means that the other party has the right argument and the right approach to the issue. So I think we need to consider this very seriously, whether there is a huge communication issue with us. And secondly, by repeatedly asserting 1890, which again is a flawed argument, if there is time I'll explain that, but did history in the world start from 1890? Was there nothing before that and nothing after that? Why are we silent on these major issues?
But also, Rajiv Dogra, the fact is that there is a back-channel diplomacy. Any government of the day would have a back-channel diplomacy, and there is no denying that both China and India cannot afford war at this moment. The point here is, should the politics of it getting shriller, with the opposition also looking beyond the national interest? 2003, and I remember Atal Bihari Vajpayee's famous words to then Sonia Gandhi, who was in the opposition benches, saying there can not be two views on a foreign policy. The government of the day needs the opposition support on the foreign policy, and that's where, Dr. Shama Mohammed, this is the question to you. Why is it that Congress Vice President is going and meeting Chinese envoy? And that's a pertinent question. Why is there a parallel engagement when the government of the day is looking at the national interest and also dealing with the issues at hand, and it's their way. It's a diplomatic channel in which the government is working. Isn't the Congress hampering that?
Why are you pointing fingers at the Congress Vice President? Let me ask you that. Now, it is always, it's a norm where the opposition parties meet, the leaders of the opposition parties meet the other envoys. Now, what you have also missed is that he met the Chinese ambassador as well as he met the Bhutanese ambassador. She did not mention that in her speech. Now, when she was in opposition for 10 years, did she take the foreign ministry's permission to meet the envoys or the ambassadors of the other countries? Let me ask you that. Is this the new norm? Are we a police state that every time our vice president meets other envoys that we have to take the permission of the foreign ministry? Is that the norm? Number two, now China is closing in on every side. You know that it's getting in from Doklam. We're having issues there. So instead of being one yesterday in Parliament, Sushma Swaraj ji should have just attacked China, and all of us, when it comes to our borders, we are all one. This is not an internal matter, it's an external aggression happening out here, and we should all be one in this. Instead, she starts pointing fingers at the Congress Vice President. Is that something from a tall leader like Sushma Swaraj? You know what is happening right now. We keep saying that we are isolating Pakistan. We keep saying that, but it is us who are isolated right now. In this, you know, with Sri Lanka, submarines are there being put at the ports. They are getting close to Sri Lanka. You know what's happening in Nepal. They're investing in Nepal. There is Obor. Pakistan is having good relationships even with Russia. They're buying fighter jets from them. Pakistan never had good relationship with Russia. Now, so who is getting isolated here is us, you know. And like she pointed out, in 1962, when there was an issue with China, we called a parliament session because Mr. Vajpayee asked, let's debate it in parliament, and Jawaharlal Nehru debated in parliament. Here we have a prime minister who goes, visits there, comes back, does not even give us a statement. Have we ever discussed this in parliament? That is the question we need to ask. And what is going to happen in Doklam? Are we going to tell our soldiers to come back? She has not answered that. What is going to happen there? Is there going to be a war? Are we going to be back? She says diplomacy right now.
Sudesh Verma, your response. Your response.
And now
is the foreign policy
diplomacy? So what is the foreign policy?
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Is the foreign policy of the government needs more clarification? Because we've seen that how it's backfired from the days of Lahore stopover. We've moved a long way. Pathankot betrayal has been there. Should a lesson have been learnt from the history where Delhi-Lahore bus service and when India extended hand to the same Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, we got Kargil in return at that point of time. Did the government go into a hurry mode to establish its relationship with the neighboring countries, and hence the foreign policy with especially Pakistan was off to a wrong start from there?
You see, after Sushma ji spoke in Parliament yesterday, there remains nothing to be spoken about India's foreign policy. She actually pulverized opposition arguments to dust. And opposition must accept it with grace, you know. None of the issues were not spoken about. She spoke on every issue on which the opposition raised. And after Sushma ji has spoken, I cannot be, you know, a better spokesperson than Sushma ji. When she has spoken, that is the final word. The Congress, I'm surprised the arguments Samay is giving. These arguments were given by Congress leaders inside Parliament, and a reply was given by Sushma ji. Entire country was convinced. India's foreign policy has never been so strong as it is today. India is seen with a lot of respect all across the globe. India has emerged as a major power. And how we are dealing with China, if you compare, ask any diplomat, they will say that China is not acting with grace, whereas India is acting with grace. It's not that India is not a military power, but yes, India believes in diplomacy. As he said very rightly, what are they going to achieve by war? After war, again you have to sit across the table and negotiate. So better negotiate now. Then there can be no statement better than this. That is the ultimate reality of diplomacy. And China, the way China is acting aggressively, you cannot defend China. China is not acting in a matured way. It's not that we are banana republic, we are weak. No, we are not weak. We are giving chance to diplomacy. And Sushma ji explained in no uncertain terms about that. And the gentleman diplomat was talking about we not saying enough about the deal about 1890. We are talking about 2012. Many times the government has expressed 2012 agreement was a trilateral agreement, and based on that India has said that the position cannot be altered by any one constituent without consulting the others. That is our final position. So what remains to be said after that? I don't know why is the Congress arguing in such a way as it appears to be arguing against.
Can I come in?
See,
yes.
There is no problem in foreign policy.
Yes, Dr. Sharma, you can come in, and with that, I would also like to ask Sudesh Verma, let Dr. Sharma come in. Okay, Sudesh Verma, let Dr. Sharma come in. You've not answered my question though.
Tension along the border.
Sudesh Verma, you've not answered my question though.
There is tension in the border, and BJP leaders are going to talk to any foreign diplomat to know what is the situation.
Calm down, sir. You've not answered my question. I'd ask whether we've seen major flip-flops in India's foreign policy vis-a-vis Pakistan as well, and also China. From Astana summit to now, from the Jhula diplomacy to now, we've come a long way. Did India not read the signs on the wall? Were we too trusting to our neighbors, refusing to learn from our history? Dr. Sharma, the question also to you is that you on one hand say that what is wrong with the leadership of the day, Congress Vice President meeting the Chinese envoy and Bhutanese envoy. I want to ask you this also. Do you believe there's nothing wrong with Congress leaders like Manishankar Ayyar meeting the separatists in the valley at a time when you choose to question the government on the Pak policy, the same separatists who are Pak agents and fueling unrest in the valley?
Didn't Mr. Yashwant Sinha meet the separatists? Shall I ask you that question? See, let's discuss what is important. Let's not digress from the topic. The topic is right now how China is getting close to all our neighbors and getting see, we have always had not so good relationship with China. That is the truth from 1960s onwards. But now it's always been a dicey relationship. But what you see right now is getting close to all our neighbors. Nepal is a very close neighbor of us. We had very good relationship. But now they are investing in Nepal, China. So from that side they're coming in. Pakistan, you know what is happening, Obor, and they also have the economic corridor in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So we have these issues happening, and then of course Sri Lanka at the south. So why is that we are not able to isolate them or Pakistan, and we are getting isolated?
The fact remains,
what is happening to diplomacy? Because nothing is discussed with the opposition.
The fact remains,
they do it themselves.
The fact remains, I have to take a short break at the moment, but the fact remains this. The fact remains this. Can India afford to have two views on our foreign policy? Why is it that we see every time a debate over the foreign policy which is in India's national interest? Why do we have two views? Rajiv Dogra, Dr. Sharma Mohammed, Sudesh Verma, thank you for joining us. I'm out of time completely on this edition of Burning Question.